Welcome back. You're watching the special discussion on election exchange as we decode the BJP's manifesto. Piyush, Goyal, back to you. You talk about how the BJP will stand for FDI in other sectors outside of multi-brand retail. What about things like FDI in insurance? What about FDI in pension? Find no mention as far as the BJP's manifesto is concerned. Could you respond to that, please?
Well, Sheereen, I think, first of all, we have said very categorically that FDI should be on the basis of public interest. It should be to encourage manufacturing, job creation. It should be infrastructure oriented. As regards insurance and pension and defense, we have very categorically said defense, we believe, should be encouraged. We need to expand domestic manufacturing facilities in defense. On insurance, our stand has been made loud and clear more than one occasion on your channel also. We believe additional investment, if it comes into the insurance sector, at the right valuation, it is welcome. What this government had tried to bring into India was just to legitimize certain acts of insurance companies which are outside the ambit of law. We are not willing to be party to those type of actions.
Will you consider?
We were also telling very categorically.
Will you consider upping the insurance limit to 49%? Will you consider upping FDI and insurance to 49%, which you've been opposing so far?
We have never opposed it per se, Sheereen. On so many times I've answered on your channel, the right valuation and additional inflow of capital. I don't know what was the objection of the Congress. Did they have a vested agenda that they did not actually want fresh FDI, or did they want to sell India cheap? I don't know what their interest was. My focus always has been get the right valuation in place, get the embedded value for insurance companies, get additional FDI to come in, and don't just correct the past transactions. You are well aware of what I mean by that. Yeah. By the way, just to set the record straight for your viewers, pension is a management affair. It needs 25 crores to set up a pension management company. I told the Honorable Finance Minister, why are you increasing FDI in pension funds? It needs 25 crores to set up a pension fund manager. So are you fighting for pension fund management companies to get out of Indian control when you need only 25 crores to set it up?
So your answer to pension is no. So your answer to FDI and pension is no. So your answer to FDI and pension is no.
My answer is we have to assess what is in national interest and take an appropriate decision when we come into power. By the way, another of the arguments of Salman Soz was about the manifesto not giving specificity.
No. Don't get into the arguments of Salman Soz. Piyush, don't get into the arguments that Salman Soz is making. Let's come back to the questions that I'm asking you.
And aims. Sheereen,
let's come back to the questions I'm asking you, sir.
Public declaration of policy and aims. It doesn't have to lay out a budget document. So I suggest that he should go back to the drawing board of how manifestos reflect guiding principles by which a new government has to come.
Let's leave that aside. I want to very quickly, before I get the other panelists in, get a specific comment from you on one of the promises that you make in your manifesto, which is to undertake banking reforms to enhance ease, access and accountability. Will this also include bringing down the government shareholding in public sector banks?
Well, I think we have to differentiate between ownership and management. In the private sector too, we have very clearly professionally managed companies which are successfully run without an ownership control. The bigger issue today is to give autonomy to the banks. The bigger issue is to get the finance minister not to, or the finance department not to micromanage these banks. I think Gujarat in that respect has shown the role model.
That's a no.
That without
so Piyush Goyal, implicit in what you're saying, implicit in what you're saying is no to bringing down government shareholding in public sector banks.
I am saying we will focus on the outcome and not focus on the shareholding. Our effort is to get better banks' performance. It is immaterial whether the shareholding is 33 or 51 or 74. The important thing is their profitability, the honesty of their operation, efficiency of their operation, the reach and spread, so that financial inclusion reaches the last man on the street.
So by that same logic, is divestment going to be a priority for the BJP? And are you going to, in this term, if you do come to power, consider privatization at all? Because that is something that the NDA did take forward.
Well, if you will recall, the NDA focused on loss-making units and was actually able to not only generate resources for the government, but also in a way convert all those loss-making units into national jewels.
Will you continue with that? Because the manifesto is silent. Will you continue with that? Because the manifesto is silent, sir. Will you continue with that?
Our approach is that public sector units should all get profitable. Just like in Gujarat, we were able to convert losses of PSUs into profit. Our focus will be on how to curtail the 27,000 crores of losses that the PSU undertakings are doing under the Congress. Our effort will be at the earliest. Whatever will be the mechanism the new government will work out. But we assure the nation that the losses of PSUs will be curtailed under Mr. Modi's regime, and he has a track record to prove that.
Okay, I'll come back to you in just a second. Sanjay, Dutt, you had a comment to make. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Mr. Goyal that on the FDI issue he mentioned, because if I read the manifesto on page 27, which deals with the FDI, we are saying that the party has a qualified stand in FDI in the sense that it's only going to be specialized sectors, industries, and the ones where job creation happens, which means that you categorically rule out everything else. Are you going to specify, as far as the FIPB board is concerned, where FDI is going to be welcome and not going to be welcome? Are we going to say that, retail is not welcome, or these 5 areas are not welcome, everything else is open?
I think he answered that. Piyush, very quickly.
Well, I think if the same gentleman reads the third line, BJP is committed to protecting the interests of small and medium retailers, SMEs, and the people employed by them. I think our effort is that we should create more jobs and not lose jobs through FDI. Our effort is that FDI brings in technology, brings in manufacturing into India. It helps us develop our infrastructure, our utilities, power, gas, oil, coal production. I don't think FDI is the bigger issue. The bigger issue is economic growth. The bigger issue is how can we get jobs for the youth of India. FDI can at best help us to supplement the investment activity. Unfortunately, for some people in the markets and for some people in the Congress, FDI is the end of everything. So they believe that if FDI invests in the market.
So let me correct you there. Let me correct you. So let me correct you there. My point here is that I'm not saying that only way to have growth is through FDI. The problem that we face in our country is that we are a capital-starved country. We're dealing with substantial bank NPAs. We need some immediate action as to fresh investments coming in. And the only way we think, and which you will also probably agree, a fastest way would be is to encourage foreign investors. Yes, agree with you, in the right sectors to come in, which create jobs, which help the domestic population. But the important issue here is that we cannot really differentiate. We are actually a capital-starved country. We all have to agree.
Sure.
And we're dealing with bank NPAs at this point of time.
Just to answer Mr. Sanjay, the fact of life is even when Mr. Obama came to India, the only thing he focused on was 50,000 jobs he was taking back to America. I think the investment requirements of India can well be met without selling India cheap. The NPAs are not because FDI did not come in. The NPAs are because of the bad policies of the Congress. Please ask this question to the Congress.
This conversation will continue. Let me move on now.
The policy right. We will set the investor confidence right. I don't think FDI is the issue. Investor confidence in India is the issue.
Mohandas, I want to pick up on this point of investor confidence and the BJP manifesto talking about restoring confidence in India, improving the investor climate. And here is the BJP saying that they will do a U-turn as far as the multi-brand decision is concerned, and it doesn't matter if the money has come in or it hasn't come in. But after we've seen a debacle with the retrospective tax issue, a U-turn on multi-brand retail, what kind of message, what kind of signals is it going to send out?
I'm sorry, Sheereen, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is not a U-turn. This is stated.
It is a U-turn. It is a stated. But it is a stated government decision, sir. It is a stated government decision today, Mr. Goyal. Mr. Goyal, it is a stated government decision. Mohandas Pai, go ahead.
Choosing institutions of integrity. It is not a U-turn, and I told you
the message.
Mohandas Pai, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sheereen.
Yes.
Sheereen, the message that is going out. The message that is going out is, here is a party that is coming in which wants to do certain things. Be wary of them, be careful of them, don't trust them fully because they want to reverse an existing policy, is almost as bad as the retrospective amendment of taxes. If a prior government has come out with a policy, you need to stick to it. And you should not reverse it. You should not put people back. Then people lose trust in you. What is the difference between amending the law retrospectively and going back on a policy of the government which has been there previously? Both are almost the same. And the message you're sending out very clearly is that, look, we will do what we want. You come in on our terms or don't come. So if you do that, we're not going to get much of investments coming in. And if you waste 2 years of your 5-year term waiting for investment to come in and trying to earn the trust of overseas investors, you lost 2 years. So I think what they're doing is pretty bad. And also, Sheereen, I don't understand what is the difference between FDI in retail versus investment by Indian large houses. You need to protect the consumers. The Indian large houses in retail are doing exactly to the small retailer what a Walmart will do. What is the difference between the two? I don't see any difference.
Yeah, Piyush Goyal, I'll get you to respond to what Mohandas Pai is saying in just a second, but I know Sudhir Kapadia also wants to come in as far as this business of U-turn and the investor confidence. Sudhir Kapadia, add to what Mohandas Pai is saying before I take this conversation back to Piyush Goyal.
No, I think I will just make 2 points. One on the retrospective amendment and then on the FDI policy. I think as the BJP has also accepted the fact that any policy which is seen as a U-turn will be very detrimental to foreign investments. That's point number one. And on the retrospective amendment, we at least have the views, as I mentioned earlier, of Mr. Arun Jaitley. If I recollect, he has been very categorical that if taxes have not been collected in the light of a particular law or retrospective, then there is no need for a retrospective amendment. So if I were to take that logically forward, on the indirect transfer, to my mind, taxes have not been collected for any of the cases because of the Supreme Court's decision and the administrative decision not to or to keep the taxes in abeyance. So to my mind, the BJP should have no difficulty in bringing about or resigning the retrospective amendment as per their own stated policy by one of their senior functionaries. So I think that is on retrospective amendment. They have a golden opportunity to resign it, as I said. As far as FDI is concerned, all I will say is that any government should make it very clear right up front what they are going to allow, what they are not going to allow. That clarity and certainty should be there. Whether the policy is right, wrong, there will always be shades of opinion. I can't comment on that. All that foreign investors look for is certainty right from the word go.
Piyush Goyal, you have a golden opportunity. You can rescind the retrospective tax. And if you actually go forward with doing a U-turn as far as multi-brand retail is concerned, you will only enhance the crisis of confidence with regards to the India story.
Well, my need of the hour is for the poor man on the street, for the self-employed small retailer to be protected.
But answer Mohandas Pai's point, Mr. Goyal. How does organized domestic retail not impact the Aam Aadmi, not impact the small and medium entrepreneur? How does organized domestic retail not impact them?
So may I answer it?
Go ahead.
Yes, if you don't interrupt me, I'll be able to answer it. I very categorically said that multi-brand retail has not come into India. FDI has not come in so far. There is no question of changing policy retrospectively. Our change in policy will be prospective. We will grandfather the past. But there is no question of continuing with this policy in the future. The BJP was clear from the beginning. We have seen what the Walmarts of the world have done. to manufacturing in America and other parts of the world. The large companies buy large volumes for their international operations. Indian manufacturing has not yet had a chance to really become competitive. Our infrastructure is lacking. We don't have manufacturing to scale. Labor is a big issue here.
You built the case. Sure, you built the case for FD.
Let me complete, madam. Please let me complete. So what Mohandas does not recognize is that domestic investment, even in multi-brand retail, sources domestically, whereas the Walmarts are not even willing to source 30% domestically. I think the important thing is we want domestic manufacturing to survive.
Let's not be economical with the facts, sir. Let's not be economical with the fact. 30% sourcing is mandatory as per the notification.
Sheereen,
it is mandatory as per the notification, Mr. Goyal. But let me move aside from FDI and retail, because that is a conversation that will continue. I want to ask you on another matter that the manifesto is silent, but we've had this conversation. As far as the issue of subsidies is concerned, better targeting of subsidies for certain. But what happens to fuel subsidies, Mr. Goyal? What is the BJP's position going to be as far as diesel decontrol is concerned, market-aligned petrol prices? Will there be any reconsideration of what this government-stated position is on these matters?
Well, you are very much aware that under Mr. Vajpayee, the BJP had completely gone away with the regulated price mechanism, and we had let petrol and diesel prices move with the market. So we had almost 27 or 28 price increases, some price reductions during our regime, and we had brought prices to market level. Unfortunately, because the Congress was supported by the left for the first 4 years and then by Trinamool Congress for the next 4 years, they brought in regulation. They actually created a situation where subsidies kept rising and the prices were kept artificially low.
I know the past, sir. So will you continue with the decontrol process?
No, it's very important to know the perspective. Now, at one shot when they try to rectify the market in an inflationary, well, I mean, you can choose to interrupt, then I can't answer. In an inflationary situation, when they try to set it right by massive increases at one time, it doesn't work. So it will need a longer term perspective. The people of India are already troubled by very high prices. We will first need to tame inflation. We will need to make sure that the people have an income which can give them sustenance, and gradually bring about a price correction to the right level. I don't think such drastic actions can happen overnight. The affirmative action in terms of subsidies will continue, and will continue to be set right by improving the leakages in the system and by empowering people with more income.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would like a specific answer, because what you're saying right now is that you, in a sense, if you do come to power, till the inflation scenario improves, you are going to put a hold on decontrolling diesel prices any further?
Well, I just mentioned to you, we do not change the present system, but the present system includes subsidies, and those subsidies can only be tapered off in a gradual fashion. And the people of India first want relief from inflation. They are not looking at further inflation on them when Mr. Modi becomes the Prime Minister. So our first effort, and we have very much highlighted inflation and price rise to be the first attack before we get down to trying to set right the subsidy burden.
All right, let me start getting wrap-up comments from my panel. Salman, sirs, please don't make this into a political slugfest. I'm going to start with wrap-up comments from you.
Sheereen, I've hardly had an opportunity. I know this was BJP's day today, but still. The fact of the matter is that you can see it as objectively as possible. But I thought that when the day it would come and BJP would release a manifesto, they would probably, given how their campaign was running, they might actually really do well with it. But I think even BJP supporters in the business community must be really disappointed with the ham-handed way they've gone about putting together this PowerPoint deck. I'm completely, I'm shocked. In some ways it pleases me, but short on detail. Somebody used the term motherhood and apple pie. That's exactly what it seems like. Borrowed ideas. I mean, did they really need? I mean, frankly, why even bother when Mr. Goyal himself says that Mr. Modi doesn't need, he just needs 3-4 lines. He doesn't really need, he has everything in his mind.
All right.
If he has everything in his mind, we as Indian citizens have a right to know the details of how you're going to do things. And by the way,
you should be pleased,
Mr. Goyal,
Salman,
in
so
this particular program,
you should be pleased that they've done a bad job of the manifesto, if that's what you believe.
I am, but I cannot be pleased that one of the senior leaders of this country, who's the PM candidate of the BJP, basically is so arrogant that he will not share the details of his agenda with us, and he says, just trust me and vote for me. What Mr. Goyal has said today, I'm sorry to say, no, please let me finish. Mr. Goyal has basically essentially created a lot of uncertainty today, I think, by his comments about lots of different things on FDI and multi-brand retail, on this thing and that thing. When the finance minister comes in, we'll see this is creating more uncertainty, and I'm sure their supporters are very, very unhappy today.
All right, Salman, so we're completely out of time. Mohandas, 5 quick wrap-up comments from you.
I think the manifesto is a refreshing departure from what BJP used to do. Very broad-based principles, many good areas, center-state relationship, and incentivizing labor-intensive industry, the focus on jobs, etc. But they're not given hard numbers, they're not given hard details, very general. But I think they're going in the right direction, and hopefully they'll be fiscally conservative. So we see from the Congress, which is profligate, to a party which is conservative. So I think that's a good news.
All right, Vinayak, Chatterjee, 10 seconds.
Yes, I like many points in the infrastructure agenda, the focus on rail, the focus on transportation, the focus on groundwater management, etc., the land use authority. These are very good points, and there are many of them. My only 2 reservations is that the power sector is very short on practical ideas and full of motherhood statements, and the fact that 100 new cities is too visionary to be considered practical by most voters in the country. That's it.
All right, Samiran, 10 seconds to you.
The new idea that I like is the center-state relationship being completely reworked. Otherwise, I think it is not the time for new ideas, it's the time for implementation. So the markets will look beyond the promises of the manifestos into actual hard numbers in how much time a BJP government will be able to get India back to a much higher growth path with lower inflation.
Sanjay, that 10 seconds to you.
I think the manifesto's got nothing exciting barring the center-state issue, what Samiran mentioned. I think one important point that we missed out, there's a lot of focus on e-governance and use of technology and a lot of, government interface with technology, etc. That's very positive. But otherwise, I maintain my statement, long Modi, short the manifesto. I think the manifesto is not worth reading, really.
All right, Sudhir, Kapadia, the final 10 seconds with you.
I think what is very positive is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, tax policy finds a prominent place in the manifesto. The fact that, there is a recognition that there is a sort of tyranny unleashed against the taxpayers, and although very uncelebrated, the fact that you need to drastically improve tax administration. I'll take Mr. Goyal's words on face value that, this party is known for better implementation, and we do hope that if they do come to power, we'll see a tremendous sea change in the tax administration.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for joining us here on this special to discuss and decode the promises made by the BJP. Piyush Goyal, thank you very much for taking all of our questions and for providing some clarifications which may have led, in fact, to more uncertainty as far as sentiment is concerned. But nevertheless, appreciate you all joining us here on the CNBC TV 18 special. Thanks very much.